Welcome to Madison City Channel's Know Your Candidates interviews, co-sponsored by the League of Women Voters of Dane County. I'm your interviewer, Michael Rosenberg, and I would like to introduce Britt Cudaback, running for Dane County Supervisor in District 6. As we begin, I'd like you to give an opening statement as to your educational, vocational, and civic experience which qualifies you for this office and why you are running for the Dane County Board.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first, thanks for having me. So I bring a lot of professional experience as well as educational background that I think is really important for this race. So in my day job, I work for State Representative Melissa Sargent, and so I bring a lot of policy background and policy experience. I also worked in the Nebraska State Legislature working on issues like criminal justice reform. So I bring a wealth of policy background and the ability to navigate state laws. In addition to that, I also finishing up my master's in law degree at UW-Madison, so I have that educational background and looking forward to graduating very soon. And my personal background and other civic experience, I also serve on the City of Madison's Affirmative Action Commission, which I think has been really informative and helpful in navigating local policies as well. I also am a board member of New Leaders Council Wisconsin, and I'm also a member of the Legislative and Policy Committee for the Wisconsin Council on Mental Health, working on mental health issues at the state level. And why I'm running, I think if we've learned anything from the 2016 election, it's that we have a lot of work to do in building a progressive bench in Wisconsin and Dane County. And I think it starts by empowering and recruiting new leaders who are willing to step up and take a lead. And if I'm going to expect my community and my party to invest in new progressive leaders, I figured I ought to be the first to put my name on the ballot and step into those shoes. So,
thank you. Lack of affordable housing and the pressure it brings to the issue of homelessness is a chronic problem that Dane County cannot seem to get ahead of. What do you believe should be the board priorities for these issues?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I think a couple things. We have to expand our services, right? We have to address alcohol and drug abuse. We have to address mental health conditions because those all really affect chronic homelessness. I also think we need to have permanent supportive housing, and that means that we have health care. That means that we have those mental health and substance abuse services that prevent people from then falling back into the cracks and becoming homeless again, because that's, homelessness is a chronic issue. So we have to sort of look at it as, from a three-dimensional approach and a comprehensive approach.
With the growth and spread of population in Dane County, what do you believe are the most significant transportation and environmental issues facing the Dane County Board, and how do you think these issues need to be addressed? Yeah,
well, I'll tackle transportation first. So transportation to me is an economic justice issue. We have transportation, the lack of access to reliable, efficient, and affordable transportation is an indicator of income disparity and opportunity and equity that we have in Dane County. And so ensuring that folks have access to be able to get to job training, to be able to get to work, to be able to get to school if that's where they're going, get their kids to childcare, those are all, we have to make sure that that's available to everyone and that it's affordable. I also think that, with family care coming to Dane County, we have a lot of folks who are involved with IRIS and who use family care services who are really concerned about transportation opportunities for folks who are differently abled. And, with Uber and Lyft coming to Dane County and Wisconsin, we've seen a decrease in, I think, accessible transportation because they're sort of pushing, cab companies out of the market who are required to provide accommodations for folks who are differently abled. And so I think, we need to continue pursuing a regional transit authority at the state level. That's something that I'm happy to continue working on, and I think I can bring a lot to the table as far as navigating state policy and asking for that at the state level. I also think that we need to invest not just in urban communities, but out in rural areas as well, because that's part of the transportation equity issue that we have here in Dane County, so we need to address that. And then the second part of your question was about environmental issues. So transportation and investing in public transit is a great way to, address environmental issues. But Dane County's led the state and the country in some of our climate mitigation and adaptation policies. I did a report through my master's degree about things that Dane County could do to expand those policies. And there are things like expanding green spaces. For example, at the airport, we have a wide range of land that has limited use because of FAA regulations. So we could do things like have an apiary there. And you find other creative ways like solar panels in that airfield. Additionally, I think that we have to expand our anaerobic digester program. That not only can help reduce phosphorus in our lakes, but also is just a good way to really synthesize environmental issues and agricultural issues, which is a big thing here in Dane County.
What public safety issue or issues do you believe are most pressing that need the attention of the Dane County Board?
Yeah, well, criminal justice reform is one of my top priorities as a candidate for District 6. We absolutely have to address racial disparities and incarceration rates in Dane County. We need to fund alternatives to incarceration like diversion, mental health and drug courts, community justice programming. We need to do all of that. We also need to figure out ways to intervene in the criminal justice system where I think that we're creating cycles of poverty and perpetuating cycles of poverty. So that includes things like failure to appear and advance notice for folks who have a court date but don't know that they have a court date. Mail service doesn't work for folks who are low income or housing insecure. So we need to address some of those concerns and make sure that everyone understands the process so that they can comply with the process. We also need to address cash bail bond. That's something that I'm really passionate about and figuring out a way that we can ensure that cash bail bond isn't disproportionately affecting persons of color and low-income folks who might not be able to pay a cash bail bond. Finally, I think we need to incorporate data-driven policies. So there was a report done in 2015 that addressed some of our data concerns and the lack of data collection. And I think that we need to take it a step further and use data to develop sentencing policies, to look at recidivism, to look at how our policies are affecting the community. So those are a couple of things for public safety.
What do you believe is the specific issue of most concern to the residents of your district, and how do you want to work on solving it?
Yeah, well, District 6 is an extremely active constituency. They're frequently at the city-county building, always taking on the issues and always there to talk about the issues. So I think one thing that they're particularly interested in is someone who's going to be engaged. And one of the things that I'm committing, and that I think I'm the only candidate to commit this, is that I want to hold standing listening sessions and standing office hours in District 6. We talk a lot about transparency and accountability at the Dane County Board level, as far as videotaping committees, and I support all of those things. But I think we have a precursory issue where we have to proactively engage constituents, and we have to actively seek their input. And so that's something that's really important to me, and I think is really important to District 6, that I'm visible in the community, I'm there to listen, and that I'm doing it on a consistent basis and not just when there's a really important issue coming up, but regularly.
What one or two personal qualities do you have that will make you the best representative on the Dane County Board for your district residents?
Yeah. Well, I think I bring a lot of personal experience that I think really informs my positions, not only on policy issues, but just the way that I advocate. I know what it means to work 3 minimum wage jobs and still not be able to make ends meet. I know what it means to be housing insecure. I know what it means to not have health insurance and to need access to things like mental health services. So those really inform my decision making and the way that I advocate for issues, because I understand what it means firsthand to be in those shoes. And so I think that's really important in an advocate. I think that's really important in an elected official, as someone who's been there and who's lived it. I also think that I would go back to my experience. I think we need to invest in new leaders. I think we need to build the progressive bench in Dane County. I also think that we need someone who has experience navigating complex policy issues, who has experience looking at state policies and figuring out how to navigate them, and understanding the political climate at the Capitol, which is not particularly friendly to Dane County right now. And so I think that experience, in addition to my personal experience and my history, really makes me a unique candidate for the seat.
Which board committees do you believe you should serve on, and why?
Good question. I think, there's the Public Safety Committee that has done a lot of work on criminal justice reform in Dane County, and I think that is something that, because it's my top priority, that's my number one committee that I would like to be on. I also, have other interests. I'm really interested in addressing sexual assault and crime victims and those services available. And so there's a committee on that I'm interested in. I also, this is not particularly sexy, but I'm actually super interested in zoning. And I think, especially in District 6, where we have, new housing coming up and new developments, and folks are maybe being shifted out of their homes, that's something that I'm really interested in, is working on zoning. So,
what would you like to say to the viewing audience for your closing statement?
Yeah. Well, I think, there are 4 candidates running in this race. We're all, great people. I think the things that make me different, again, my experience and the work that I've been doing in the Capitol, progressive values aren't just lip service to me. I work on them every day, working with Melissa Sargent there, and that's something that I really believe in, and something that I think I bring to the table. I also think that, this race isn't just about me, and something that I think distinguishes me from the other candidates is a commitment to building the progressive bench and a commitment to building people up with me. I spent the last 3 years of my time recruiting and mentoring and training new leaders, and so this district is about longevity. This election is about who's going to represent us, not just tomorrow, but 5 years from now and 10 years from now, and it's about who they're going to bring up with them. And I think that that's something that we need to look at. We need to be willing to invest in someone who's going to build other people up and bring them up with them. And so I think that's something that I'm interested in, and I look forward to having your support on February 20th.
I want to thank Britt Cudaback for speaking with us and the viewing audience for taking the time to know your candidates. As with every election, please vote. On behalf of Madison City Channel and the League of Women Voters of Dane County, I thank you for joining us.